Hi, welcome to What Happens Next from Sriram Arts Development Consultancy. My name is Sreenag. I'm an architectural photographer based in Chennai. And today we'll be speaking to Sriram Ganapathy and Siddarth Mani from KSM Architecture. KSM Architecture is an award-winning architecture firm based in Chennai. I've known them for a good 6-7 years now, and we worked together a number of times, and I've always enjoyed my conversations with them. So I thought now would be a good time to bring in Sriram and Siddarth. Hi, well, thank you so much for being here and for putting up with the long setup process to get this going.
No? Hi, Sreenag. Hi.
So, how have things been so far in the last couple of months? I think this week you started coming back to office, right?
Yep. As of 18th of May, as official lockdown went down, we resumed working from our studio, but we've been working from our homes for
ever since the lockdown came into force.
And actually, it worked quite well. At some point, we were thinking that why did we build such an office and stuff? But yeah, it's different when you come and work in your studio, your spaces.
Yeah, but I also think it's nice to have your office behind you when you're actually talking to people and not like parts of your house.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is probably the longest we've ever spent continuously at home without actually leaving your home, not going out anywhere. And I think it really makes you miss the overall environment of sort of being with each other and having a conversation one-on-one. It has, I think, a lot of the subtlety is taken out of it when you do it on these online platforms. But I think sensing a person's the way they talk and the way they react to what you're saying, I think is a lot. I think a lot of those things you pick up only when you're sitting one-on-one.
Yeah. And I think also for your office is very open. So you can literally look to your right and talk to somebody who's sitting about 10 feet away. And it's not quite as easy now, right? Communication must be slower.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the issue actually from a communication point of view, from a work point of view, has not really very much. I think it's more the feeling of being in a workspace has really been what we've been struggling with, or maybe what we've not had the opportunity to experience in the past, 45, 50 days.
Couple of things, when we have our meetings, I'll tell you some of the positives that I have seen in this lockdown. When we have our meetings in office, we're 60% focused on that project. Because there's always a phone call, there's always something else. You're always doing 2-3 things simultaneously. But when we come on this Zoom call and we talk about one particular project, there are 4 or 5 people sitting over there. I know that the conversation takes longer. What you would probably have finished in 15-20 minutes, half an hour discussion, it takes 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You get into a good amount of detail, and everyone speaks their mind. They speaks, whether it's silly or not. There's no fear of telling what you think about that particular project is, and you're actually analyzing a project, a problem, or a detail, or anything threadbare, which I think is fantastic, which we don't do in our studios. So that's something, I think that's a learning, and we need to do something like that whenever we have our meetings later. We really need to get into that level of focus, because that's amazing. The amount of clarity of thought is amazing when we
also because we structure it a lot better, because we have a defined time. I mean, obviously at home you have that 1-2 hour window before you get consumed by home related activities.
Right, of course.
I think having a start and an end, a little bit of structure to the way you think also helps, because at work also, like what Sriram is saying, you end up thinking you can also solve it tomorrow because you're going to be here tomorrow again, and so on and so on and so on. So you tend to sort of prioritize and maybe push things around a little bit. which I think were tremendously efficient during the
Really
lockdown.
efficient. But the flip side of it is now if there is a little detail and across the table we just make a sketch and say, look, why don't we look at it this way? Now you can't do that in a call. So you have to start explaining. Your language comes into as you move your cursor a little bit up north, go a little to the right, make a little circle. Can we do this? So that becomes a little irritating. But I think there are both sides to it. But we need to just pick the best of what we have experienced the last 2 months.
Nice. But it's very interesting to hear that because many people, like you said, they're getting very distracted while working from home or looking at this as some sort of extended vacation. But it's nice to see that efficient work is happening. And you were also telling me that you've been able to do full project proposals and things like that without ever meeting, right? So how do you feel like your team has handled this? How do they feel about it? And are they enjoying working in lockdown from home, or are they looking forward to coming back to the office?
I think, as a team, I think one thing we've been doing consistently is we've been in touch with everyone through the week. We've not sort of lost contact with each other. So I think being in touch with each other throughout this lockdown period has really helped, not only from a work perspective, but just to keep the morale a little bit on the higher side. Because everybody obviously has some amount of fear that that some of these cases are coming close to their houses and various other worries that they've been having. So I think constant conversation, a lot of these Zoom calls, a lot of calls, we just not talking about projects, but we just speaking to everybody, just hearing their voices, sort of everybody's voices. It just helps boost the morale.
Yeah, and we spoke about what we have cooked. I've become a very good cook now. So, like my desserts, if I may say so, are like really good quality.
Top level, huh?
Siddarth has always been a baker. He bakes, and he says.
Really, I didn't know that.
Pictures. Now we are able to send some amazing pictures as well. So we speak about how did you make that paneer dish and how did you.
Yeah. So it's nothing to do with work necessarily.
Yeah. We had some interesting calls.
Yeah, well, at least when it comes to your baking and cooking, it will be. I think now I know what to look forward to next time I come and meet you guys.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something else. See the lockdown fully came into effect there was a bit of a lull before the lockdown came into effect when we realized that the coronavirus was starting to spread, right? Did that give you any time to prepare for how to work for the next few couple of weeks or next few months or however it looked at that time?
Well, not really. We didn't really have much time because I think the schools were closed on 16th or 17th of March.
Right.
And by 18th of March, we decided we'd close as well because 75-80% of our staff we use public transport.
Correct.
So people on buses, trains, and metro, we felt it would be an unnecessary risk. So they just went. So we just had a couple of days. If I recall, it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we went on that Monday, and then we were already speaking about it the previous week. And then on Monday we came in, and then we said that those of you who, if you feel that you would like to work from home, please take your work home. So the projects, every one of us work has always been uniformly distributed across every individual. So the files required for working, and every project has its own deadlines which everyone is aware of. So they took the necessary stuff and they went. There are also a few of us who are close by, near the office, so we can always come in, and if there is any file or anything that has been missed out, they could always say, please come and send it across, things like that. So, we did manage quite, I would say. It was not a big challenge.
Okay.
So, I think we didn't have to prepare so much, but then we did reasonably well. It was not so.
Okay. But I think that's good to hear that you were already able to work that way because I have spoken to some people in building and architecture whose offices were not equipped to work from home because everyone was on desktops and I think nothing was on the cloud. So I think they had a harder time doing this. Now, now that you had time to reflect on this, have you been able to set anything else in place? Because I think, as you said, with most of the team working from home, and only some people because they can't come on public transport. What have you done now that makes things easier to work from home or work remotely?
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at transitioning from a physical storage to a cloud storage, which, I mean, we've been talking about it for a very long time. We haven't found the, or we haven't had the initiative or the right push to do it so far.
Okay.
Actually, all our stuff from the server has always been backed up online. And
Okay.
we told the service provider that converting that backup into an online storage system is quite simple. So we intend to do that. Probably once the service provider can engage himself to do it. I think in the coming week we intend to go completely on the cloud.
Okay.
We probably need to do it also because I'm not sure how soon we'll be able to use our public transport. That's a huge challenge by itself. So those who are entirely reliant on public transport and they need to work. So then I think this cloud server thing would definitely help.
No, and it opens opportunities. Like for example, many times, even pre-COVID, we would have a situation where you've gone home and there's a very critically required file that, like a distress call from a site saying, I badly need this piece of data. And since the server is physically placed here, we have those limitations of access to those files. So even outside of that, there is the flexibility of retrieving critical information at any point in time, which also helps us.
Right. Yeah, of course. And so when you've been working in this way, how has it been dealing with clients? Have they been, I assume by now people must be getting impatient to get work, moving forward again, projects and things like that. And I think only now, I suppose some projects have started work again, right? How have the clients been, how has it been dealing with clients? Are all your projects still, are they all just starting up again?
It's kind of half and half.
Okay.
Because say different clients have different business models. Some of them have been very badly affected. Their businesses have been affected.
Right.
So, I mean, we are sure that many of those projects are going to take a long time to really take off, if at all they will. So that's. But I would say about 40% of our clients are keen to get started.
Okay, that's great.
So that's like really good news. So,
yeah.
And also the our work profile is quite varied.
Yeah.
There's residential, commercial, institutional, industrial work, and so on. There's different kinds of projects. So our client profile is also quite varied. So some of them are, they just actually have treated it like a 1 month break and then they just carry on. Hopefully our fees will also carry on the same way. So, but good chances that it would, So I would say that way we are not so badly off. But, is worrisome is the future indications. What happens probably 3 months, 6 months hence? Because really the work and the cash flow and the running of the whole office, you need to look at the performance 6 months before, and that's when the money starts rolling in and the work starts rolling in. So we need new projects. So it's the starting of new projects that's a concern.
And there's a concern that will be affected for maybe. You think things will come back to normal a little bit over the next 18 months, maybe?
I'm not sure. I won't go as far as. I think we need to make our windows very, very short. We need to think 1, 2, 3 months at a time. There's no aiming too far ahead is probably knee jerk, in my opinion. I think India as a country is doing reasonably well.
Right.
There is a lot of panic and it's just surfeit of WhatsApp going around. I think we are doing reasonably well. So considering that, I think indications are that things will get better. Of course, it's not going to be your normal is going to be definitely a different normal. But
Right.
I think work will start, but it's that initial thing. Now, when somebody wants to start, there's a client who wants to put up a project and you're all set to start construction or you're at approval drawing stage and getting ready to start. You would always think that, I need to put in so many crores of rupees. Now, when am I going to get my returns? Is it a good idea now? Do I wait? And so on. So that will impact architects because if they delay a project, then obviously our cash flow stops. There is not much work. The project is not stopped, but your cash flow has stopped. Work has stopped.
Okay.
So we really need to see what are the indications about projects starting and new projects coming in to start.
Okay, got it. And so now a lot of the people who will be watching this video are architects or architecture students, and of course there will be a lot of artists and photographers as well who will be watching this, hopefully. Is there anything that you have learned from this that you feel you can pass on in terms of what sort of a working style people need to adopt, at least for the short term, like you said, the next 3 to 6 months maybe? Is there something in particular that you feel is unique in the way you have been able to do things that others can try and emulate?
I mean, I don't see change being so drastic that we are going to change the way we actually work. But I think a lot of structure can be brought to the architectural profession in general, because construction, architectural organizations, we're all a part of the same ecosystem, which is reasonably unstructured.
Right.
For example, meetings and a lot of the way the whole process flow of construction and design is a little bit unstructured. There's a lot of back and forth, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, and so on. So I think it's a good time to sort of invest in some thinking on structuring yourself, structuring the way you do your work. It's not necessarily ideas and thoughts that are always at the forefront of this time. I think the way you organize yourself, the way you structure the way you execute your work is probably something that is going to improve your efficiency, and that improved efficiency can have a good lasting effect on the way you carry forward your project. So I think we have realized it. We've never done, like we said, a presentation, a huge presentation for a large institutional project was completed completely on virtual platforms, and we were skeptical about how the result would be, but it was outstanding because we had the right systems in place. Everybody knew what role they were going to play, and I think we were actually very surprised that the end result was far better than what we had imagined. So maybe to some extent you can think of it as being physically present at workplace is not necessarily the deciding factor of how the result might be. Maybe the result would have been different, but it's not necessarily the key deciding factor.
Yeah.
And also, I'll just add from a practical standpoint, I think I would say that, we need to be more frugal now. We don't know how long this slowdown, I'm not calling it lockdown anymore, I'm just talking about slowdown in business. I don't know how long it's going to last. So it's a good idea to be, just skin and bones, cut the fat, stay as humble as you can. And, now that no one's eating out, I think there's a whole lot of cutting of fat that's happening in any case. So, the thing is, I think we need to really trim down. So for young architects, yes, this is a difficult first 3 to 6 months. I know, and we are not a very well-paid profession. That's the sad truth. You know? And however much we keep trying to say we must get paid better, it's a circle, cycle, and we really need to improve things. But having said that, I think we need to tide this period. Finances are going to be tough, so we need to be far more frugal with what we do. Cut all unnecessary waste, and only do what you really have to do. So yeah, that's.
I think that's applicable to anyone in whichever field of work they're in. Cutting the fat right now, I think, is the first thing everyone should do, right? So let me also ask you about what you feel may be something that architects can do going forward, at least not in the distant future again. But I'm assuming since you must be having a lot of clients whom you have made offices for and things like that, is there anything that can be done for them to manage their space better with social distancing right now? And then, of course, things can hopefully come back to normal in a little while. How do you suggest people can space manage while still making their space look good? For especially when they are going to also be doing video calls and you can see your office in the background, right? So manage both the aesthetic and the practical and safe aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, Sreenag, is that social distancing is only a temporary phenomenon.
Right.
It is against human psychology to stand 10 feet, 15 feet away from each other and have a conversation. I think it's unnatural. So it is something that's definitely going to be followed. There's going to be a hangover of this social distancing for a certain period of time until this pandemic is controlled or at least brought into some sense. And I don't think the immediate translation of those kind of behaviors are going to necessarily filter into architectural design immediately. There might be certain typologies of buildings, maybe like schools.
Yeah.
Where maybe there is a requirement for children to be spaced further apart. Maybe classroom sizes might have lesser number of children in them and things like that. But I don't see it greatly having an impact on space design immediately. But it is definitely something that has to be followed from a protocol point of view, from a SOP point of view, where certain things have to be followed before children get into school and so on, so that the perimeter of the school is kept safe from such kind of attacks from viruses and stuff like that.
There will be changes in design thinking, but I don't think it's going to be like a sea change in design. I think we have to be sensitive to this pandemic thing, and if it has happened once, it can always happen again. And see, viruses have been as old as man has been. Ever since man started, there have been viruses. And I'm told, thanks to so much of WhatsApp education we've been having, there are only 2 viruses that we have actually been able to eradicate completely. Smallpox being one of them, and another thing for cattle. All the other thousands of viruses still exist. So we will coexist. So so that's not going to change the way we live. Man is a social animal. We have to live together. So we have to be sensitive to these indications that we have, the new indications that we have. But like Siddarth says, we'll have to take precautions. So and different spaces, schools is one thing. Now I can't imagine that I would ever be going to a cinema theater with my family and watching a movie. for instance, at least in the next year or two, right? So that is a business, that is probably a building typology that is going to be affected. Immediately it's going to be affected. So that needs a lot of thinking on how it can kick back. So I can't say that, hereafter there are not going to be any more cinema halls ever.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So you will have a mall, you will have shopping happening, retail and restaurants. Now eating out, it's almost like one of your instincts today. You have to eat out. People have to go out. People go out to a resort. You're going out on a holiday, a vacation. You travel. How do you travel? So we cannot stop this, but we will have to be sensitive to this and then move forward. So there is a lot of work as architects, as designers. We will have to think. And we will pretty deep. Like a chess player, we have to think 5-10 moves ahead to see how is it that things will pan out. And they are impractical. Everything costs money. It's easy to say just disinfect the whole place. Now, who's going to pay that money for that? You need to recover all what has been spent. So the economics, the commerce of the whole thing, the societal pressures. There's a whole lot of things. I think it's a good time for us to sit down and reflect and think. For young architects, young professionals, another piece of advice is this is a good time for skill building.
Right.
Do things that you never had the time to do. Go ahead and spend as much of time as you can, learn new software, learn new skills, which can help in your profession. For architects, it's always a good idea if you want to improve on your sketching skills, drawing skills. There's so many superb software available. Do some skill building now, so that you are more employable when the time comes. And work will definitely be there. In my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot of what's the word? I mean, it's like refurbishment of spaces. There's going to be a lot of built space, and people say, I want to redo this for this kind of an activity. I want to convert this hall into a school. I want to make it a learning center. I want to have a small exhibition. I want to convert this into a small home, studio apartment, multiple studios. So many things. So I think that is going to happen, and so which means a fair amount of interior related work might happen. So which means some amount of technology for that, material, knockdown furniture that has to come in. So modularity of components. People can start thinking in these lines, and creative people will always come up with something new, and some good idea which is efficient can take you really far. So I'm saying people work on ideas, do skill building. These are the things that you need to do. There's no point in just sitting down and lamenting, say, oh God, what is going to happen? I mean, do what you can do right now. Wherever you are, your mind is with you. So use it.
And since Shreya will be sharing this particular interview with more people from the arts and performance background, I think this applies very much to them, where skill building is important for everyone. In fact, a couple of people who interned with me were asking me what they can also do what they can do with their photography while there are absolutely no shoots going on. And the only thing that I could think to tell is that they need to start getting technically stronger. Anyone can get stronger. I mean, how much ever strong you think you are, there is still more to learn, right? And so I think we're coming up to the end. Is there anything that you have been working on that is unique during the time that you've not been coming to office? Has there been something new that you guys have been working on?
I mean, like I said, my cooking has become very good.
And
I've become a fantastic carom player. I'm incredible now.
Okay.
But I think we've spent a lot of time with family, and
okay.
I think
It's an absolute rarity.
Yeah, it's
to have
impossible.
45 days on the trot, 50 days.
I think after high school, when we used to have summer vacations where you could just go out and not do anything else.
Yeah.
I've not had this kind of time ever.
Correct.
I actually, honestly, I've enjoyed my time. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Because the worry of finances, running the office, paying salaries, running the business is one thing. But if you set that apart, I think the quality of time we've had has been amazing.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that's a good positive note on which to end this interview. Thank you so much, both of you, Sriram and Siddarth. Thank you so much for doing this. And I know I sent you guys a long list of instructions of how you can set up the cameras and the lights and everything. And I'm glad we were able to do this.
Clearly, this is a skill building that we can do. We could have done.
Yeah, why not? I'll help you set up lights in your office so you can do more presentations.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. And thank you everyone for watching. You can follow KSM Architecture on Instagram at KSM Architecture. For more interviews with artists, creative people, performers, or photographers, you can also follow at Shreya Nagarajan's